Thank you so much for joining us today, Uli.
That's all
Um,
right. I feel I've listening to the intro. I'm just like, geez, I do all that. Wow. Yeah. It's yeah. I'm just me, I guess. That's yeah. But thanks for having me.
it is so lovely to have you here. Um, I might just start off with asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your work.
Okay, let's go to the opposite of the intro. My work. I have unmedicated ADHD and I'm just off the wazoo of energy charts all the time. So I do a bit of everything. I do what like be passionate, I guess. If it upsets me and frustrates me, makes me angry. Um, I don't ask for permission, I ask for forgiveness. I'm just gonna throw my opinion out there and see if it sticks, and if it doesn't, then I'm either wrong or it needs to be changed. So that's what we're gonna do. Obviously collaboratively, because you know, I'm only one person. And I don't I've had enough adversities and barriers in my life to want to fight with another person. Just not worth it. But yeah, that's just me. I do my thing. I I'm a business owner. I'm also a mentor to some young people. You know, I just mingle with people, talk, have conversations, and live life. I try
Amazing.
anyway.
Some of our audience might have actually seen you in film. On SBS in Australia, there is a
Yeah.
film, Life as a Battlefield. I'd love you to tell us a little bit about that experience.
Um. How did that start? That started because I I had always been told by my mum that I couldn't work a 9 to 5 job because of my health condition. I got mental health, I got physical disabilities and everything else and bits and pieces in between and trauma and stuff. Um so I was just like, well, you know, a group home, which is what we call them in Australia, um, is a form of segregation. Like we don't have institutions anymore, but like it's still an isolated setting. And I was just like, everyone, support workers or colleagues that I work with had a perception of what happens when I go into hospital. And nurses had a perception of what it's like to live in a group home. So I was just like, heck, I may as well just, I've got ADHD. I don't ever shut up. So, like, I may as well just bring a camera in and see where it ends up. And it ended up, SBS is one of two, I believe, government backed, media companies that we have in Australia. It was International Day for People with Disability. And SBS turned around and said, can you have that ready in a month? And luckily, my producer has worse ADHD than me and said, yeah, sure. And I was terrified because it meant that we needed to put a 30-minute finished documentary into an hour and a half within a month. But we got it. We gave it to them. And then I had more adversaries that I needed to face, which I think we will cover. Probably. I can slip it in there somewhere. But
So,
that's where it all started.
that's awesome. So, for those of you who haven't seen the documentary, tell us kind of what you cover. What is it? What's it really about?
Um, Really hard to explain. There are times where I was a young person coming off, peer pressure of using drugs. There are other times where I was in the middle of COVID in hospital where, my stomach, I get tube fed, that wasn't working all that well. There was times where I took you a tour. I toured you guys, the audience, around my home because it looks very different. I had steel front doors that were reinforced with steel frames that had massive fire hydrants outside because we had a fire system in the house. Very different. Um, I don't know. That's it. And then I went on a road trip because my mental health was so bad, and it was after like the COVID lockdown. I'm just like, I'm not safe to be near people because of my lung condition, but I'm just going to disappear off the face of the earth. And then I realized that, oh my God, Australia is actually quite big. I'm like, wow, we have beaches. So that stuff. More of a coming of age, just indie sort of film, really. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. And I still don't, but that's okay.
But looking back now, like it's created a lot of conversation, hasn't it? And like
Yeah.
created kind of a bit of a pathway to you be
It it
talking to
it
lots of different audiences about really big things.
it bubbled. Like I'm doing law reform now. And when my movie came out, the best way I can explain it was I breached a law that said that I couldn't disclose publicly or broadcast publicly that I was on a financial administration order. Basically, Britney Spears in America happened to me in Australia. I avoided it. It wasn't from a family member. It was from a government body, a statutory body that were just following the law. I don't see it like that because they could have called me and had a conversation with me before they went through the whole thing. But nevertheless, um, but that later on, that trauma response also, when they came back to me and I offered to do a podcast with them, they said something. And in the moment, I was just like, no, you're not ready. You think I've got the problem. I don't have the problem. I'm offering an olive branch to you. But nevertheless, I breached the law. Um, and then I just used my lived experience to be ignored by the government for a while, for about a year. They reached out to me and, gave me some tokenistic words, I would say. And now I'm in the process of taking it bigger, which is on a national
Yeah.
scale, which is intriguing. Um, Everyone's just like, oh, we love the work that you do. I'm like, it's not done. I haven't got it signed. It's not legislated yet, but we'll get there. And the premise is,
So tell us about what's the legislation that you want to be
yeah,
changed.
the premise is I want to be able to have people that are on these orders, so predominantly people with intellectual disability, uh, different community backgrounds, cold backgrounds, Aboriginal backgrounds, any sort of these demographics can end up on these orders to be able to speak publicly if they choose, unless the judge and the court at the time when you get the order say otherwise. For and I think the only restriction should be if if it's going to cause direct harm. But at the moment, it's a default position. That means people that are on these orders automatically can't say anything at all, good, bad,
Mm.
or indifferent. And it's just like, how are we meant to learn from people if we've got a 1990s, 1980s model of protectionism still like just rearing its butt that no one knew about until I decided as a person with disability just to tell my story, which probably makes it even more crazy to think that there's a law that stops people from speaking out when Australia is signed up to the Human Rights Charter. So
Shocking, isn't it?
yeah, and now there's a Disability Royal Commission that found in Australia, I think it went for about 2 or 3 years, Renee, is that about that? Yeah. That the commissioners found that there is no domestic law that enforces, people's human rights. Well, for the disability community, I'm not sure about others, but the UNCRPD that we're signed up to internationally is not, there's no domestic law that enforces it.
Mm. So, for people that were here this morning, we've been talking about people losing their voice through trauma and big experiences. And if we add on to that, then on top of having potentially those experiences, then also legally not being allowed to talk about it is
And not
quite
knowing at the
like,
time. And not knowing at the time until I had breached it.
so like almost like the government's doing a 101 of how to be as least trauma informed as possible, isn't it?
Yes, and I can
Like,
tell
let's
you
see how many of
exactly
those
where
points we can
I can tell
counter.
you exactly where I was when I got that phone call.
Mm.
I was next to my producer's Mercedes van in the middle of the state forest because I think I wanted to go on another holiday and we were in another lockdown. And I remember sitting on the edge of, like, my camping tent that I had, like, those, like, old school medical emergency, like, stretcher off the ground things, and, like, I was cold and I had just put socks on, and my producer actually found out from the network's legal team, and I was just like, "I don't know what's going on," and I felt so naked because I was just like, "What? I just woke up. Like, it's raining. I'm cold. Okay, sure." And I had no choice but turn around to my producer and just like, "What do we do now?" And he's just like, "I don't know." I'm like, "Great, awesome." So I made a couple of phone calls, using the lived experience that I had and the voice that I had left, and I'm like, "I have a problem." And then obviously that person went to another person, we went to another person, we went to another person, and I ended up finding a lawyer, disability rights, human rights lawyer, in about an hour. And then the people that seem to have instigated this very quickly realized that the legal team was known and I wasn't going to just take it laying down. Like, I wasn't intending to fight, but it was just like I asked the question for help. I got help, which is good, but that's not accessible for most people
Mm.
in my world and realm. Yeah.
You've talked to me about you've talked about like finding out that you had to then fight it,
Mm,
then you got access to a lawyer.
mm.
And I loved the story that you told me when you talked about the conversation you had with your lawyer when you realized you needed to take it further. So how long did it take to kind of get an outcome with that
Oh,
case?
super quickly. So, like, my lawyers literally jammed it through the court, and I use those words because I remember it was the 7th of January. We were still in the Christmas break. The deputy president of our civil court system, which was the head of the human rights division, but because deputy of, the whole court, they're the head of each department, actually opened up her courtroom, via telehealth, like by like online. And she asked me what had happened. She's, told me that they had to meet the public interest test. And I said, "Judge, Your Honor, what is the public interest test? Tell me." And she told me what the definition was. And I said it. And at the time, I didn't realize, but she was checking my capacity to see if I was being,
Mhm.
influenced or whatever. And then she's just like, "Yeah, sure. Here you go." And wrote the order. And she's just like, "I'm going to put on there if it's all right with you, Mr. Cartwright, if like with your consent." So the first line says, "The movie has permission to go back online to said network with Mr. Cartwright's consent," which I found very ironic because I had no choice when it happened. But now the court's just like, "Hey, do what you want." Um, and I turned around to my lawyer. I'm like, "What now?" And I was shocked, relieved, and like also like coming down on an anxiety, like adrenaline dump because I had never been into court in my life. And God bless my lawyer. She is a person with autism, but also a great lawyer in her own right. Um, Turns around to me without thinking and says, "Now you change the law." And my response is, "What?" Like with the actual facial expression as well. And I'm just like, "How?" She's like, "Go to the attorney general." I'm like, "Which one?" She's like, "Both if you have to." I'm like, "What?" And then I just campaigned. So I guess adversary can be turned into good things.
And you've got some really good coverage. So if anyone wants to like little Google News search on Uli, there's a whole lot of ABC articles recently as well and coverage about this going further, hasn't it, Uli?
And there's other, and there's a couple of like a current affairs sort of reports that go into other people's stories and stuff in similar situations. But yeah,
So now we look back on kind of what you were getting yourself into when you started doing it, Doco, and where has it led? Would you do the same thing again?
uh, well, am I going to do the same thing again? Well,
That's a
maybe
leading question.
I might do another movie. Hopefully, I don't get myself into legal trouble this time. I don't think the government really wants to hear my name, to be frank. But I'm thinking so. Um, because I think I've grown in the sense of I kind of know what I'm doing better. Like, still, I'm a person with lived experience. Like, it doesn't matter how much academic stuff that we know or what we try and do in the workplace, I'm still going to have my responses. Um, but I think I can articulate a little bit better than I used to. Not perfect. Um, but yeah, I want to do a clothing line. I want to do a podcast. I just want to do things and get out there. Um, we live in a world where we need to just appreciate the simple things in life. And that's what I know to bring. I bring just my experience. Can't change someone's experience. It is what it is.
Absolutely. And I I know that we've had many, many conversations about this. Because I know you often get comments from people like, "How do you have the strength to do this?" Like, "Oh, where do you get it all? Like, how do you do this lived experience thing?" What do you say? Like, what's your response when
Well,
people
right now, I have a runny nose, feel like crap, and probably going to end up in hospital for a week tomorrow. So I don't know. I balance. It's This is my outlet. Like society and the systems and the construct of the world sort of thing is not built for me, and that's fine. Whatever. I If you watch my movie, there's a lot of medical stuff in it. I've had no choice but fight and just demand what I want, whether that's overthrowing my biological father's decision to not give me a medication or do a procedure, or if it's me telling the doctors to go get stuff because it's 7:30 in the morning because you've woken me up and I went to bed at 3 in the morning. Go away. It can wait. I'm not gonna die. Let me sleep for another hour. Um, it just depends. I don't have a choice. I don't want to be an advocate. I don't want to be inspirational. I don't want to have drive. And it's not that I don't want to have drive. It's not like the depressing side of things. It's just like I would like it just to come natural. And it just doesn't. Like, ugh, it's hard. It's
Mhm.
hard because you have to balance what society thinks is okay and professional and how you're feeling. I have a lot of meetings with a lot of senior executives about
Mm.
why I don't agree with what they want me to do all the time.
'Cause you work as a lived experience advocate in the disability space with a few different organizations,
Yeah,
don't you?
yeah, yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
really putting your lived experience to, like, good work with what
yeah.
you're doing. So how do you find that?
Um, a lot of hypocrisy, not in a bad way. It's just I believe so. I think it's about building that trust and that rapport with people, like the basic trauma informed stuff. But it's just like when you trust certain aspects, certain people in senior leaders, whether above you or not, you just assume or expect that that's going to filter down into like your workplace and where you immediately work. That's not the case. Not the
Mm.
case. And there are a few times that I've asked CEOs, while being very animated and very angry, do you still want me to keep speaking up? And they say yes. I'm like, well, how do I proactively engage with this conversation when I'm upset? Because what I'm telling you is the complete opposite to yeah. Doesn't make sense.
Mm.
So it's hard. And it's just like, okay, what do you want from me? Do you want the lived experience or do you want a professional answer with solutions? Because you are also my boss.
It's a hard position to be in, isn't it, in a lived
Yeah.
experience role? Because you're being asked to put yourself out there and give your experience and kind of like put your emotions to the test. And then you've still got to operate within the rules of an employee and be respectful for your boss and not disagree too much. Like that's hard to manage.
Yeah. Yeah. I've taken a couple of weeks off because I was just like, I'm departing. And especially when you've got pre-existing relationships with them, and especially with like the background that I have that you guys have been hearing, I don't have any fear of blowing the whistle. So obviously I have anxiety, I have depression, I have all that, like I'm not saying I'm superhuman. Um, but push comes to shove, I won't be backed into a corner. Like no one will back me into a corner. Like not even my own father could, and God bless him, love him dearly. I respect him for where he comes from and his culture as well. Um, but yeah, so it's like it's also me trying to gauge in society how I say things without uh, catching them off guard, if that makes sense. Because I don't want them to think that I'm a threat or adversarial. They just assume that I've got trauma or lived experience. It's just like I'm going to be snappy all the time. I'm like, no, I'm just being direct because I just don't have the energy. Oh, are you autistic? No, probably, maybe. Doesn't matter, does it? Like, can I not be direct? Because I don't know how else to explain it. Thanks.
So, what advice do you give other people in lived experience roles? Like, if someone's looking at doing a lived experience role, say in disability or mental health or something, what do you tell them to run? What do you say?
I know the answer to this, but I'm going to preface it with I'm still on that journey. So don't I I've just started it probably like a month ago because I hit rock bottom. But I would say that you need to the person with lived experience needs to understand why the word or the sentence or the request made you upset and just sit on it and be like, right, this is why it's not a, this is why I'm upset. This is why I don't agree with you. And this is how it's going to impact, you know, other people. If I've felt like this, then this is what's going to happen. But by all means, you want to do it, just can you break it down into steps? So why? Explain to me why you want to do this because I don't agree. So it's about give and take, I think. It's about knowing where you're at, what your boundaries are, and hopefully your line manager or your boss will respect it. Or at least try and understand it. Because I don't believe that one or the other is right, you know? The non-lived experience or the lived experience person. And it's not even about the person with lived experience or not. It's about just being good people.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if you have the trust and you have an authentic relationship, then you can actually work quite a
Oh,
bit of stuff
trust
out,
me,
can't
with
you?
the some of the things I say sometimes, I'm just like, "Oh boy, that relationship's gonna go down the window possibly," but I haven't yet, so that's good, but it takes a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a taxing position to be in, I think. And I think sometimes, like I think about having been in HR teams before, I think sometimes people don't have a full understanding of how much you're asking of people when you're asking them to represent a group that they're a part of that's not the majority.
Yeah, and in that vein, I sit here and reflect to myself. Last week, I was at a work event, like in my normal day job, not my career stuff. And I'm like, I'm tired. Can we go? I said to a support worker, can we go? And this was like, yeah, sure. Like we've been to one event this morning. Like, there's still people around. You can pop out. I walked out the front, and the CEO was coming in the opposite direction. But I've been having conflict, and we started talking, and I saved it because the ADHD kept going. So I was like, okay, in the moment, emotionally, I need to say this. And he was talking to me and he wasn't dismissing me, but I knew this was a longer conversation. So I stuck my hand out and said, let's not have it out today. And it was a nice one. It's just like, let's not do this now. Shook his hand and walked off. And it's about going when you need to stop.
Mm.
I was just like, all right, this is not going to end well. We go at an event with a whole bunch of young people. So I was also aware of me being that young person. So I wanted to protect them if we had to have a hard conversation. I'm like, nah, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I did ask my support worker to leave 10 minutes earlier. So that's a sign. And I just bailed and, rested, which is okay.
Yeah. And if you've got a relationship where it's okay to say, actually, I know we were in the middle of something, but I need to tap out now, like how
And he
valuable is
knew, and
that?
he was great. He was great. And
Yeah,
I'm not a touchy-feely person, so when I put my hand out, I knew within myself that's a way to say goodbye socially. So it's about give and take, about that dance. Do the dance and you'll be fine. Actually,
absolutely.
hopefully, you'll be fine.
Yeah, just making sure that you got good support systems in place, right,
Yeah,
when you're doing this
informal,
stuff.
formal, even dogs, family, parents, friends,
Yeah,
whatever. Doesn't have to be a human, you know?
absolutely. Absolutely. We had some dogs that didn't like humming earlier in the chats.
Yeah, I went to an organization I was on the board of yesterday. I went to pat a dog and they were just like, "No, no, no, no." I'm like, "What?" Like, very friendly, but, like, got some serious social anxiety and will bite. I'm like, "Alright then."
Oh,
Yeah.
good to know before you pet it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh,
Um, anyone who's watching, if you've got any questions for Uli, you're welcome to pop them in the chat as we get close to lunch. So I'm
please
curious.
don't feel shy. Like, I'm an open book.
So Uli, what is next? You've talked a little bit about maybe another doco, maybe campaigning for some law change. Is there some way that people can follow along with what you're doing online? Is
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
LinkedIn or
LinkedIn,
Instagram the best place?
website, you can Uli Cartwright and
Awesome.
Crew, Life is a Battlefield is the movie. I don't know what's next. Politics. I'm doing vending machines, like food and snacks at the moment, so that's cool. Um,
Um,
I just wanna help sorry, my camera turned off. I just wanna help the next generation. I think I don't lose hope in this generation, but I also acknowledge and understand that, like, uh, systemic change takes time. And I don't mean systemic change as in let's talk about it. I mean systemic change is done when you don't need to talk about it anymore and it's just natural and you forget that you've even made the change. Um,
yeah.
so if I can put seeds in place and build, little micro businesses and, get podcasting and all that sort of stuff, then, I have people joke with me all the time, senior execs say, "You're gonna be one of those portfolio people." Like, what is a portfolio person? It's just like, "Oh, you're just gonna have your fingers in all different areas." I'm like, "I guess."